Hello, 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 and welcome to this SEO Mastery Summit, day one Q&A session. So right now I'm joined by Alex, and we will probably have a couple of more people joining in as well. But yeah, fantastic to have you here. And again, just as last time, we've had a ton of good feedback on day one. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of an emailing problem early on, so a couple of emails went out a little bit late. But apparently that's what happens when too many people, well, not too many, when many people sign up. So, that is excellent. But as always, all the sessions are available for 24 hours. So you can watch them on repeat if you don't catch them initially at the starting time. And yeah, so plenty of opportunities to check them all out and yeah, enjoy. So we've had a lot of questions. So again, we have lots and lots of ways for people to ask questions. So either email or during the live sessions, or as well, they can do it here in the live stream. So lots of good opportunities. And I can see we have the live stream split up over a whole bunch of places. So we have it in both on our Facebook page, on our Facebook group, and on YouTube and so on. So sometimes, people can, I think the viewers can only see questions in the same place as they are or something. So that can occasionally be a little bit interesting. But at least if you fire any questions at us at all, we will put them up here as long as they're sober. Greg Campbell in particular. Right. So the first question, so we had Heather Richardson was asking, I'm in the travel niche. Luckily, I don't have a ton of expenses, so I've just been laying low, but cash reserves are being drained. I'm curious if you feel it makes sense to wait for the world to get back to normal, or if I should start moving in a different direction. So I guess that's an interesting question. In the travel industry, and I've just been laying low. So she doesn't actually say if she's doing affiliate or what exactly she's doing, but
I mean, I could tackle it from like more general standpoint while you're getting more information about how she's doing it. I think generally speaking, the travel industry is supposed to have a very strong recovery in the very near future. I think it's all obviously all big question marks, and everyone would love to know when the travel industry recovery would happen, right? Like all the airlines, everyone's really banking on it. But I think a good barometer is to look at maybe stocks like Airbnb, for example, and see how they're doing. They're actually doing very well. They had amazing quarter last quarter, even with the challenges of COVID. And they forecasted this quarter to be much better and the summer be very strong. I think generally speaking, there's a lot of pent up demand in travel. I think ultimately there'll still be people who are a little bit afraid to do it, and everyone's going to have different comfort levels. But I think there's a lot of industries where we have clients in travel, we have clients in tickets, like event brokers, right? We have clients who do travel for cruise lines. I think it's a lot of it's case by case, but it should start getting better fairly soon, pending the vaccine rollout. But the people I've spoken with who are in these kind of industries are really expecting a recovery this summer, if not the start of the summer, then late summer. So I think if you're in the travel industry and you've held out this long, you're a month 13 of very terrible news. I think you're in the final stretch, and it certainly would make sense to wait a couple more months to see if a recovery happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say, I mean, so I had a couple of friends that got absolutely crushed. So they had a big team, and they were basically, doing lead gen for travel companies, and obviously they got totally crushed. And yeah, I would say as well, like if you're in affiliate, or if you're sort of selling your own travel, I guess, I would definitely say the same, right? I've seen a lot of travel companies that actually were very, very quick at winding down, but quite a few of them sitting with cash reserves. So one of the key things that I expect will happen when things come back up is I think we will see quite a few takeovers, and it might actually happen even in the next couple of months, even before things start back up, because I think there's some travel companies that are in very tough spots generally, but I think there's definitely also some that have good cash situations and are ready to capture market share. So I'll say if I was in your shoes at this point in time, I would probably get ready, as Alex says, for the next couple of months, and I'll probably get ready to be very aggressive when it starts back up, because I think that there is a lot of companies that are a little bit doubting their future and so on. But I think if you're ready to go and ready to kick some ass, then yeah, definitely some opportunity. Excellent. So the next question is from Stuart, and he's saying, our main challenge is that our agency serves many different types of customers. So even though we kind of have a standard strategy, we always need to do a lot of adjustment for each new client and what things they want to pay for. Any advice?
That's a tough one. I guess I'll give my quick 2 cents. I think operationally, it depends what size our company you are, right? If you're a 5, 6, 7 person company, that might be okay with the customized approach. Operationally, if you want to scale and you want to become 100, 200, 300, 500 person company, you're going to have to streamline operations. You're just going to have to, you're not going to be able to do a custom solution for every single client. It just won't work. And I'm speaking from experience. We're at 174 employees now, double from 18 months ago, and that was double from 18 months before. So we went through all of those things. But if you're okay with being a 7-person, 10-person custom solutions company, that's okay too. Not everyone needs to be a 500 or 1,000 employee company, right? But if the goal is to grow and grow aggressively, I think you have to find ways to streamline your process, and it can't be a custom solution for everyone.
Yeah, I think this, particularly when you're small, it can be difficult, right? Because you're kind of money grabbing a little bit. And actually, for agency guys, I'm doing an interview as well with Ryan Stewart one of the coming days, and that's definitely worth a listen. But I would agree, right? Like generally in the beginning, like when you're just starting out, it can make sense to try some different clients just to get a feel for what works. But I think as soon as you get into it a little bit and you're looking to grow and scale, you really need to make clear what you're providing, and you really need to be rough and basically say, if you don't fit into this framework, then we can't work with you, right? Because that's the only way you build a scalable solution. And the challenge is a lot of the time, it's actually more expectation setting than anything. Because when you ask people, what would you like? Then they tell you what they like. Whereas if you say, this is the square box we provide, use it or lose it. Then you put yourself in a much better situation, right? And at least from a, how do you say that? From an agency perspective, you kind of eliminate the customers that don't fit. And what you'll see in my experience is that for most cases, you basically have clients kind of turn around and say, well, okay, if you provide that box, we'll jump in it. So yeah.
It's obviously it's an extreme, but it's like Henry Ford, right? His famous quote is, you could have a color, any color you want, as long as it's black. That's the only way of making it. It's the only way you're gonna have it. His goal was to scale as quick as possible and produce as quick as possible. Obviously, there's a happy medium, but I think everything you said makes sense to me. That, but it could be okay, right? Knowing a lot of agency owners, not everyone wants to have a 100-person company or 50-person company, and sometimes it's okay to be, we are the custom fit solution provider, right? That could be okay too.
Yeah. So there was a comment here from Dave Haas saying also the book Built to Sell have some good ideas about making an agency that scales better. So great comment. So Sophie had a question here saying, one of our businesses depends on airplanes flying. Excited to hear you guys discussing this topic. So I guess if it's airplanes flying within the same country, I think you're okay. But I have a feeling since that's already happening, I guess you're talking more international travel. And
I think it's similar topic to the travel question. I think it will happen. I think there'll be like vaccine passports and all of that. I think we're in the final stretches of it, right? I'd be shocked if we're not doing some kind of international travel by the end of this summer. I think we're in the final stretch, and you just gotta, if you could, hold out. I think it will happen. I think there's a lot of pent up demand. I think there's a lot of business travel demand, even though some meetings people realize don't have to happen in person and all of that. But even conferences, I've spoken at dozens of virtual conferences, and the main takeaway I've been hearing, especially the last couple of months, is really like the virtual fatigue. Like people really want to do the in-person thing more than ever before. So I think travel will come back. I think flights will come back. Maybe we won't see it come back 100% this year, right? But easily early 2022, Q1 2022, we could be back to record numbers. Granted, nothing out of the box happens, like Corona, like version 3 comes out or something crazy. I think we're almost there. I think flights are picking up. From people who I know who are traveling, are posting more and more filled up planes. And I think with the vaccine passports that are on the cusp of rolling out, I think we'll be in a better place.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they've been discussing in Europe a lot. I've seen with this vaccine passport, and apparently it seemed to be a little bit more difficult than they think. But I'm sure, I'm confident they will figure it out somehow. I just saw Thailand have actually opened up now, so I think if you had the vaccination, basically you still need to do a sort of a 1 week quarantine in a hotel or like in a resort or something. But they're definitely loosening up quite a bit, right?
There's got to be some international standards. So they're not developed yet, but I think we'll get there. I think that the airlines have a lot of pull, and obviously a lot of economies are suffering without travel. I think we'll get there. I think we're almost there. Like sometime this summer, maybe late summer, but I think we're almost there.
Yeah, I'm from Denmark originally, and as far as I've seen in the news, basically they expect the whole population to basically be vaccinated by July. I think the big thing with Corona is the question of how frequently do you need it, because obviously what I've seen is they expect everyone having to be vaccinated every single year. Obviously, and if that's the case, there can be a lot of sort of on-off and so on. But yeah, I mean, I kind of expect people to desperate to travel, right? Both for holidays, but also business-wise, like conferences and stuff. And I think when things open up, I think it will be very, very aggressively, right?
Yeah.
But then on the other side, there might also be a lot of people who have a lot less money than they used to have. So yeah, I guess that's sort of the counterbalance point, right? But yeah,
I feel like it's going to be in the U.S. We had prohibition where they're no one's allowed to have alcohol and everything, right? And once it got repealed, the sales of alcohol and people going to bars and partying and everything was like 4 times the level it was before prohibition. I think it'll be like one of those. I think there's just so much pent up demand. People that didn't even really travel much now are like just itching there, like, oh man, can't wait to travel, go to the beach. So I think it'll bounce back very strong. If it'll be this year or early next, I think it's to be determined. But I think there's so much demand. At least that's what I'm hearing from people.
Yeah. So hopefully, Sophie, not too far away with some kind of improvement, I would say. The next one, Alex, that might also be an interesting one for you. So that's from Karina. And she says, why does agency not just build their own sites instead? Working with customers and clients can be really hard work.
It's hard work the other way too. When we just started our company, we had a lot of competencies in SEO, SEM, everything like that. And the idea was, well, we're making all these other clients successful. Let's do it ourselves. And we started our own e-commerce business. It was called Outdoor Gear. Purchased outdoorgear.net, created a whole e-commerce division. We had agreements with 8 vendors that supplied literally every single sports gear you could think of. Literally, we had the same suppliers as Sports Authority and a lot of other big stores, and also at similar pricing to them. So we had everything set up very well. I'll tell you, it's a pain in the ass. It really is a pain in the ass. Operating your own business, it was just so many things that we didn't think of operationally. Like, we had to ship goods, we had to deal with returns, we had to deal with customer complaints. We had a lady that we sold her gloves straight from the factory, like drop shipped gloves. She tried to sue us, saying there was glass inside of the gloves, and she cut her hand. And ultimately, it actually went to court. Ultimately, it got dropped because on her Facebook, or I forget where, she posted actually wearing the gloves at the same time she said that she cut her hand on it. So it was just so many things like that that I think you got to choose a path. You either want to run your own business and be knee high in all of those issues and dealing. Yeah, it's a lot of operations, shipping, returns, customer service, right? It's a lot of that kind of stuff. Or you do agency stuff. I think it's at the time when we were starting, we were all over the place. We were just throwing darts in lots of direction. Young company, young employees. But I think ultimately, for sure, you could go into that direction and just do that versus running an agency. From my personal experience, I would not recommend doing both. I think you pick one or the other.
I would agree. I mean, so what I would say is that, I mean, the benefit with running an agency is that you can go in and specialize on a very narrow path, right? You can definitely also go a little bit broader, but like lots of agencies just do link building or just do content or just do so that way, particularly if you're starting out and you haven't run a lot of business before, like focusing on just a very narrow path can be super helpful, right? Because it makes it so much easier to build the systems and build the framework. And as long as you don't fall in the path of trying to, offer 27 things from day one, then it's definitely a significantly easier start. I typically see this question most between people doing like sort of pure affiliate marketing and then doing clients. Obviously, affiliate marketing generally is a relatively straightforward business model, right? Build a website, get some traffic, and make some money from the sale. So again, in that case, like, first of all, when you're building up website properties, it takes time, right? And you still need to eat while you do that. So some people might have some savings and so on, but it can be tough, right? And what I would say, the good thing with agencies is you actually get to practice a lot and learn a lot for other people's money. And what I mean with that is the fact that if you have 20 clients who's you're all doing SEO strategy for example, you're all doing PPC for, like, the whole thing is that you end up being able to, try different things that make sense on all these people's sites, and ideally you want them to do better, but the whole thing is that you're doing it with other people's money, right? The thing is, if you start up a brand new site and you have 10 visitors or 100 visitors and so on, like, testing strategies, testing things can be very difficult. And again, I'm not saying you should use your clients as a testing ground per se, but there's just things you can do when you have more audience, when you have more scalability, that there's things you can see if works or not in better ways, right? So, right, had a comment here from Dave Haas. Great experience sharing from Alex about running your own full business instead of client work. E-commerce has so many pieces like shipping, customer service, and yes, that is 100%. I know a lot of people who have burnt their fingers and jumping in. I mean, so Amazon is kind of providing the in-between way. So with Amazon FBA, you can kind of run an e-commerce business and they can take care of customer service. But if you are in SEO and you feel Google is the big evil thing in the world, if you start doing Amazon FBA, you will have Amazon being the very, very big evil thing in the world. And
with Amazon, I haven't done it myself personally. I haven't sold like products on Amazon, but I've known people who surprisingly had more issues than in their opinion than it's worth. I know people have left the platform. It's very tough for small businesses. And again, I might not be 100% on point with this because this is third-party information. I haven't done it myself. But Amazon holds a lot of the cash and doesn't pay you right away. And any returns, I think they take the money out. So it's very hard as a startup to turn the inventory and get the cash flow with Amazon. At least that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things to it, right? So the value with Amazon is that if you rank well, like if you have a product that's selling in the top, you will sell more than you can ever do with any other kind of traffic, right? Like if you're selling, let's say, garden gloves or whatever,
Mhm.
you're ranking in top 1, 2, 3 of that, you will sell hundreds of thousands of units or whatever, right? So and that's just not scale you can get anywhere else, right? And the thing about Amazon ranking in principle is very easy, right? So it's not very difficult to game, if you will. It's basically a question of how many sales are you generating, and do you have a decent review score, right? And one of the benefits, and I've actually worked with clients that I've really recommended going into e-commerce or particularly Amazon, because again, if you're working as an affiliate, if you can send a lot of traffic to an Amazon product listing, you can increase the ranking of that listing very, very well, right?
It's very interesting.
And even as an affiliate, actually, I mean, a lot of people do Amazon affiliate, but very few of them actually end up reaching out and collaborating with brands, right? So one of my recommendations always find a product, go to page 2 or page 3, because these guys have invested a lot of money into pushing a product online, and they're generally desperate to sell it, right? And as an affiliate, if you're in that world, your ability to go and actually push that, and your ability to make more sales from it, and really get a much higher commission is really high, right? So many Amazon, like if you talk with individual business, so if you do Amazon affiliate, you go in and look at what products are you selling the most. If you find people who are willing to support you and so on, we have lots of clients that do get 10-15% extra on any product sale they do for individual clients, right? So basically at the end of the month, they still get the 2, 3, 4% from Amazon, but the client will then pay them 10 to 15% on top of that for selling their particular product, right? So that is super valuable. And if you have if you're selling two products a month or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? But if you have sort of certain product category where you're shipping a lot, like that can be a lot of money, right?
Cool.
So interesting. When starting an agency, how do I know what niche is good? Any niche secrets to give away, Alex? Any gold mines?
Geez. So what I tell people that are doing startups, and I think it's the same story. No matter what kind of startup you're doing, agency or whatever you're doing, and that's what we did when we started. I think you got to throw a couple darts at the wall and see what sticks and see what you're good at. It's very hard to go in and preemptively. Like I went to a business school that for my undergraduate that's specialized in entrepreneurship. So I went through all the classes where you like preemptively pre-plan everything, right? You're not going to be able to. You're going to pre-plan saying, I want to do this niche and I want to do exactly this kind of link building for these kind of companies, and then go in there and either your pricing is not competitive or your employees are just not familiar with it. I think I'm still a big supporter of throw a couple darts and see what you're actually good at. And ultimately, to this day, for our own, so we spend a good amount of money on our own marketing. I'm trying to we don't experiment with services anymore, really, because we know what we're good at this 10 years in, and we know what value we bring to our customers. But I still value experimenting, and with the marketing we do, we spend, I don't know, 150 to 200,000 a month on our own marketing. 10% is always set aside to experiment with stuff. So I think it's always super important to experiment with things. I think when you're starting, I think you just unfortunately have to test out a couple things before you could figure out what you're really good at and where you bring value to clients.
Definitely. So one more agency question here. So this guy is saying, I have an agency and I'm consistently trying to tie up people for at least a 1-year contract, but finding it very difficult to get clients to agree to. Any hints and tips on how to do that?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. I'll tell you, long-term contracts became trickier with COVID, generally speaking. Second of all, I don't know if they're super necessary. I don't know. I guess if the work you're doing is super front loaded, I guess you could do it. I know a lot of our competitors, especially on the PPC side, I won't name any names, but a couple of our competitors, especially bigger companies, are very big into making long-term contracts. And contracts that clients don't understand, and then they have a big legal team to take advantage of that, right? Again, I won't name any names, but a lot of SEM companies, you do SEM with them, they'll build you a website, but then the contract, it says they own the website. So even after a year or two, if you decide to leave, they go, oh, actually, we own the website, and guess what? We own the domain too. There's definitely, I guess there's some value, I guess, to tying people up and making them not leave, right? But ultimately, if your service isn't super front loaded, I think you just focus on having clients not leave versus locking them into weird things. The way around it that we've really used, and not really a way around, but instead of locking people in, I think we in the contract or somewhere we put that, depending on the project, of course, that 6 months or whatever it is, but people could cancel with a 30-day notice or 45-day notice or something like that. So you still have your 1-year contract, right? You still, if you're worried that the client, if they know it's month to month, they're going to be looking for other agencies every month. So if you're worried about things like that, you still put the 12-month contract. And then for the peace of mind for a client, just tell them that they could opt out with 30-day notice, 60-day notice, or put in a penalty, right? You could cancel at any time with 2-month penalty. So you kind of have the best of both worlds. They're still in the long-term contract. They have a way out in case they're worried, and it's enough of a penalty that they wouldn't just randomly every month switch agencies. I think that's the way to go. I'm ultimately against tricking and locking people in for long periods of time and then owning their domain and owning their website. We're very big as an agency. The client owns everything. But I know a lot of companies that are as successful as we are, maybe more successful even, that do that kind of stuff. So that's the best advice I could give.
Yeah, and I would say as well, I mean, I think from an agency standpoint, right, it's obviously great for cash flow planning, right? If you have clients locked in for a longer period of time. So I can totally see where that makes a ton of sense, right? Now, I would say as well that I think from an agency standpoint, again, if you provide value, right, if you provide a lot of good value, and if you set the right expectations, then it will not be as much of a challenge, right? But I think the expectation setting is where many people sort of jump out, because what happens is that they're very good at saying like, oh, SEO can bring you all these benefits and all this magic stuff will happen. And, oh, by the way, it takes 3 months or 6 months or a year before you start seeing results. But, they kind of say that with very small letters, right? So I think, again, like making very, very clear what the expectations are. And again, like particularly having great case studies where you can actually show potential clients, like, the flow of what happens for other businesses and how it took a certain period of time to see the growth and so on, I think makes a huge, huge difference, right? So, excellent. Well, lots of good agency questions. Alex, thank you very much for joining today. I think we'll close the live stream for now. And as always, feel free to keep sending us questions, keep asking questions with the speakers and so on. And we will be back. We'll both be back with our live Q&A tomorrow. And we actually have a live Q&A. Well, so US time, that'll be tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Around expired domains in particular. So feel free to join, and looking forward to see you.